Hi, Canucks fans. And welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am joined by Harmon Dial, and we're going to talk about the Four Nations Faceoff today. As we said, this is going to be a preview episode. Now, for those on the podcast, I want you to know that I'm wearing, what would you call this? I call it a pelt. My personal preference. I call this a pelt. It's a plaid, red and black plaid hat with it's fake fur or faux fur, but it's a Canada hat because I found out my dear co-host Harmon Dial. Usually we agree on everything. Rooting for Team USA in the Four Nations Faceoff. He was telling me he's getting his face painted.
Oh, stop it! I'm wearing a red jacket, which I normally never do. But I just think the U.S. has a slight edge on paper. That's all I'm saying.
That's just such traitor behavior. I'm just going to say it. Like, I'll say the quiet part out loud. No one wants to say it. No one's as brave as me to say it. That's just traitor behavior. Like, you're not even rooting for Canada at this tournament. What's going on here?
I am absolutely rooting for Canada. I'm just objective enough and unbiased enough to where I can set aside my fandom and give the people my fair and honest opinion.
Where was that jacket made? Red jacket that you were bragging about. Look on the back. America, probably. Supporting the American economy. Harmon Dial. Let's break down the actual tournament here. Chat is bumping early. Thank you for all the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. And yes, someone brought it up. I have worn this before on the show. I did wear this. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Wore it on an old episode when we used to do the show in Chris's apartment above Rogers Arena. And speaking of Chris,
Happy birthday to you.
okay,
I had to keep it quiet so we don't get copyright on it, but yeah.
that was so loud for me at least. That was so
wow.
loud.
Very loud.
Yeah, that was so
Okay,
loud.
so on my end it was quiet, so sorry about that.
It's okay. Thanks for the birthday wish, technical producer Jacob Lazar. Speaking of Chris, I wanted to just give him a shout out. 2 years late, but they finally did it. They finally gave our boy a podcast. We were talking about this forever. Oh, why isn't Chris coming on Canucks Convo? Like, I'm not gonna get into it, but like they finally give him a podcast. Let the man cook. It's got a very, very good concept. This podcast that Chris is gonna do, and that's the thing is like. People are like, oh, no one's going to talk about this because they don't want it to be competition. Like Chris's podcast that he's starting, and if you haven't heard of it already, Canucks Insider Podcast is available wherever you get your podcast. It's not really competition because he's doing it. I don't know what he's announced and what he's told me. It's not an everyday thing, okay? But the concept is awesome, and it's something that only Chris is going to be able to do with his access. So the concept is Chris, who we all know and love, is going to sit down with Canucks players and staff, and he's going to have conversations with them. I wanted the show to be called Canucks in Conversation or Conversations with Canucks, but they went with Canucks Insider Podcast. They finally pulled the trigger, give Chris a podcast, which they should have done a long time ago. But anyways, they gave him a podcast, and they should have, and I'm very excited to see what Chris comes up with.
Yeah, likewise. He is an excellent conversationalist. He's really good at making people feel comfortable, which is important given the types of guests that he's going to have on. He's just a naturally outgoing, charming guy. All of the Canucks Convo listeners already know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for it. Also, the chat is giving Jacob heck because that was super loud. It was loud for us, and apparently it was very loud for everybody watching the show.
Yeah,
well.
and the funny thing is anyone listening to the audio pod will have no idea because it'll be fixed for that. But yeah, it's
all good. Good.
Inside baseball, the back end stuff here, there was a mistake, whatever.
Who made the mistake?
Well, me. I just had the wrong settings in, but
okay.
That's why the audio pod listeners will have no idea what we're talking about.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, Nar in the chat. Just wait till Faber starts going live weekdays at 2 p.m. No. That's not happening. But yeah, shout out to Chris. Seriously, I'm really excited to hear what he comes up with. he deserves it. He deserves to have his own show, and I'm super excited that he finally gets one. So let's get into the Four Nations Faceoff. Chat is bumping early today. Let's talk quickly about our charity partner this season for our super chats, the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show? Hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Harmon, I'm very excited to talk about the Four Nations Face-Off. I said this yesterday. I am very, very excited about the tournament that we're about to watch. And I mean, yeah, like I'm wearing the Canada belt because I am getting a little patriotic here. I'm not going to lie to you. I told you I'm going up north this week. I'm going to go skate on an outdoor rink. I don't know how long I'll skate, but I'm thinking I'll probably spend all day on the ice. I'm very, very excited. I'm very excited to just do that. So that's got me feeling patriotic. Then I bought a projector for outside the cabin because we're going to have a fire pit going. I set up a little white sheet, and then watch the Four Nations face-off. I'm excited for it. I'm going to be honest with you. So maybe I'm a little too excited for Team Canada because of all those things that are going on. Like I get to experience our country the way it was intended to be experienced. But I'm very excited for this tournament.
Likewise. I mean, I've already had friends hitting me up, trying to set plans for the games throughout the week, Wednesday, Saturday. It's and that's always a sign that people are invested because, again, my friends aren't like diehards on Canucks Twitter where anything NHL and hockey related that they're necessarily going to be all over it. Some of them are, but some of them definitely aren't. But this feels like the tournament that obviously it's not Olympic level. You're not going to get that level of investment from casual fans. But the fact that we're already making plans in my friend circles around getting together, watching these games is a sign to me that for the most part, fans are pretty invested and excited to see best on best, with the caveat, of course, that not every country is there.
You know who's going to be a quietly good team at the Olympics? And again, I know this is a Four Nations preview, but Team Czechia should put together a pretty solid team, like at least on par with Finland. And here's the other thing that we should mention about Finland, because I know even today when we talk about them, there are good Finnish players that are playing in Europe that just aren't eligible for this just because they never played in the NHL. And I mean, not even never. Like there are guys who have played in the NHL that could come over and be in this tournament. The Olympic team for Finland is going to look different than what they're putting into the Four Nations. Now, obviously, that's because Miro Heiskanen is probably going to be there. Is Mikko Rantanen playing? Like, is he ready to go? Yeah. Okay, so he's been confirmed. Good. That's a really good thing for Finland. Again, you want competitiveness in this tournament. You really, really do. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, Finland, it would be nice if they could kind of pull, even if it's just guys who have played in the NHL before, just pull those guys out and put them in the tournament.
The other thing about Finland is just historically, they're one of those teams that can band together really well, especially in these limited like small sample tournaments where you don't have a lot of time to build chemistry. A lot of it is how quickly can you get on the same page, build a very distinct identity, get that level of bind. And that's where Finland has always been a nation that in terms of those intangibles, they seem to band together really well and play as more than the sum of their parts.
I love it. Yeah. And I mean, Sweden too. Sweden gets that as well, that reputation. It'll be really interesting. Let's get to the Four Nations face-off. How would you like to do this, Harmon? Would you like to start? I was thinking we could go format and then roster, overall tournament thoughts.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I like that. Our opening segment today is brought to you by Pacific Toyota Dealers. I didn't tell Jacob that, but I'm telling him now.
No,
Pacific
I am
Toyota
all
Dealers.
over the place right now.
Sorry, Jacob. Pacific Toyota Dealers, our opening segment. Because I want to make Frank brought to you by Daily Faceoff, because I think that's a good way to do it. So for this segment, Frank Seravalli joins us later. This segment is brought to you by Pacific Toyota Dealers, who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, which is packed with all the things you want in an SUV. And it's also backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. And now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 3.29% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. And your Pacific Toyota dealers have a very exciting contest going on right now. Listen up. This grand prize includes 2 tickets to the Konica Minolta Champions Club at Rogers Arena for the April 6th game between the Canucks and Golden Knights and 2 Canucks jerseys. You want to win? Check out the link in our episode description or follow Toyota Pacific on Instagram and Facebook at Toyota Pacific for your chance to enter. Contest is open only to residents of BC and Yukon of age of majority. Nailed it. Okay, let's get into it, Harm. Let's get into the Four Nations Faceoff quickly. Schedule, format. There's no semifinal in this tournament. I think we mentioned that yesterday, but ultimately it's Four Nations facing off, as you might have heard from Sidney Crosby at this point. Four Nations facing off. Each nation is going to get 3 games, and all of those games are going to be wrapped up by Monday. And then at the end of that, there is going to be a championship game on Thursday. And Jacob, I'll give you time to find it. Pierre LeBrun tweeted out the photo. I don't know if you have it. You have time to go find it. But Pierre LeBrun tweeted out the photo of the trophy that these guys are playing for. And like, that's a nice looking trophy, Harm. And also a trophy that looks like that, I would think the NHL would try to make this a somewhat regular thing. I think the way to do this is do it every year before an Olympic. Like if you're going to be committed to going to the Olympics every 4 years, which I hope the NHL is, have your All-Star game every or 2 of every 4 years, and then have this as well the year before an Olympics. So Olympics are every 4 years. Make this every 4 years. I would do that. Instead of an All-Star break. You do this every year before the Olympics.
Well, I think they want to do some type of World Cup of hockey. And have that not the preceding year before the Olympics, but have an alternating where it's like you have the Olympics, 2 years later you have World Cup of Hockey, two years later you have another Olympics. I imagine that's the ideal goal and aim that they're gonna shoot for. And to me, I like that idea better because it's spaced out to where you have international best on best every 2 years rather than 3 years apart, and then you have two I didn't even want to say tournaments because it's different between World Cup of Hockey and the Olympics, but 2 best on best formats. I like it spaced out every 2 years better than go 3 years without anything and then 2 years in a row.
I like that too, and I think that might help you build up the draw as well. So what are you telling me? Are you telling me the Four Nations Faceoff is a one-off thing?
I would guess so.
Look at that trophy though.
I think Harm's right. Because they had the one-off trophy at the last World Cup too, right? But I think he's right. It does seem like a one-off thing. It looks like the World Cup will be brought back, and they were trying to work with the IIHF on it, but it doesn't even look like that's going to happen. So who knows? But I do think the Four Nations is just this one-time, one-off situation.
Well, that's a waste of a trophy because that's a beautiful trophy. And for those on the podcast, go look it up. It is a beautiful trophy, and there's lots of space for multiple names on it.
The NHL makes billions a year. Who cares?
Who's going to get this trophy then? So whatever nation wins this, who gets to keep it?
I don't know.
Staying in Sam Halam's house?
They also get medals, gold medals for winning side.
Yeah, but that trophy is going to be a relic. That's going to be on Facebook Marketplace in 20 years. Mark my words. Mark my words. Okay, let's keep breaking down this tournament. So as I said, each team gets 3 games. Focusing on Canada's schedule, you're looking at them opening the tournament against Elias Pettersson and Team Sweden at 5 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday, February 12th, which, folks, is tomorrow. Then they play again against the U.S. on Saturday, February 15th. We have a watch party at Greta. More on that later for that game. That one, again, is at 5 p.m. Pacific. Then it's a Canada versus Finland matchup on Monday. That one is at 10 a.m. Pacific on Monday, February 17th, with the championship game on Thursday, February 20th, 5 p.m. Pacific. So each team gets 3 games, and the top 2 teams play in the championship games. It seems pretty simple. The one thing I will say, and I know it doesn't really matter, there's no bronze medal game. It feels like you could have done that just with the fact that your last games are on Monday. Like every team, all 4 teams play on Monday, and then there's just no games till Thursday. I would like to see, even if it is on Wednesday, those other 2 teams, whoever doesn't make it, playing in a bronze medal game. I'd like to see that.
I personally don't really care. You only have 4 nations. Like winning bronze, third place out of 4 countries doesn't really mean a whole lot.
It's more hockey, Harm. It's more hockey, man.
Eh.
You're in a bad mood today. What's wrong with you?
I'm in a great mood today.
Was it because I called you a traitor?
No, not at all. I'm doing amazing today.
Okay. Oh, this is a great question from Sniper. And I know we're getting off topic. Us doing a preview show is not a great idea, but we're going to continue. But I want to get this question in from Sniper. So if you were to add 2 nations to the tournament for next time, which ones would you add? Okay, so there's no indication yet if Russia's going to be allowed at the Olympics. We don't know that yet, right? Am I right about that, Jacob?
Correct. They are not going to be in the IIHF for this next year, but we don't know about the Olympics yet.
Okay, so we don't know.
But we don't know, but the way it's trending, like I'd be surprised if Russia's allowed.
Okay.
At the Olympics.
Okay, so
but
not
they might be
Russia
allowed. They might be allowed under like a Olympic athletes thing. We just don't know about that yet.
Oh, okay.
True, yeah.
I know what you mean. Okay, so obviously the obvious answer is like nation with the most talent. Obvious answer is Russia. But let's say you can't pick Russia because they're not allowed in the. And I mean, I guess they could allow them in the tournament, but for our purposes, if we're talking about an Olympic tune-up, which is what this is, if you include Russia, I think the next team, as I said, is Czechia. But if you don't include Russia, I'd say you have to go Czechia and then probably Germany. And I mean, Germany might not have the best team, but like, if you're doing an NHL best on best tournament, like you have to have Leon Draisaitl in that tournament. And again, I think things change if you are putting Russia in it, because obviously Russia is the next best nation in terms of the talent that they have of NHL players. But I would say Czechia. Like, I think Czechia could be a quietly really good team.
Switzerland is underrated too. Like they got Yossi, Fiala, Hischier, Timo Meyer, Niederreiter, Siegenthaler, Pius Suter, obviously.
Hell yeah. Pius Suter mentioned on the show.
So like they've got some legit pieces too, to where they'd be competitive.
Yeah. RP88 says Czechia and Germany. Yeah, I do like this idea too. A la World Cup of Hockey, a leftovers team rest of the world. You just got Leon Draisaitl setting up Alex Ovechkin or whatever it is.
Pasternak out there.
Yeah, Pasternak. Exactly. I like it. Kazakhstan. Yeah, see, like there's a lot of nations that participate in hockey. But my pick, yeah, Czechia. I think Czechia could make the most noise. I would love to see a team Czechia. I think they'd be great. Okay, back to the preview here. So we broke down the schedule for Team Canada. Games to watch. I want you to pick 3 games to watch at this tournament, Harm. And just tell me which one's like you're really circling here. I'm going to say it's US Canada. Think that one's a given. Obviously, you're going to be rooting for Team USA. That one is on Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Sweden versus United States. Every Canucks fan has that one circled on their calendar, obviously. Like, Elias Pettersson is playing on the first line for Team Sweden. JT Miller's playing on the third line, but we'll see. There's going to be a moment where those two guys are on the ice at the same time. JT Miller killing penalties for Team USA. More on that later. But USA, Sweden, and then obviously the championship game. So if I'm not allowed to pick the championship game, I'm going to say Canada, Sweden, Canada, US, and Sweden versus US are the ones I'm most looking forward to.
It's the exact 3 that I had in my mind. Like you want to watch the first game that's happening tomorrow, the Canada versus Sweden. Canada versus US is mandatory. And then how could you not with the Miller versus Pettersson stuff to see good. US and Sweden?
Yeah, it's so good. What are Canucks fans most looking forward to? We asked that, and we're going to find out the answer in our poll question, which is brought to you by HSBC World Rugby Sevens, where high caliber rugby and the ultimate party weekend collide. SVNS is Western Canada's largest sporting event, and this year is the 10th anniversary of the event. From February 21st to 23rd, BC Place is the place to be. Grab your friends in your best costume and come on down for the best party in town. Single day tickets are now on sale. Friday tickets start from just $50. Go check it out. It is so much fun, folks. I've tried to explain this to people. If you've been, obviously you're going back, but if you haven't been, take a shot. It's so much fun. And like I said, Western Canada's largest sporting event. How could you want to miss it? Let's get to our poll question. Pull it up, Jacob. We asked people, what are you more excited to watch at the 4 Nations Faceoff? JT Miller versus Elias Pettersson or a stacked Team Canada? We only did those 2 options. Split vote. 51.2% say Miller versus Pettersson. 48.8% say a stacked Team Canada. I think this is a great bowl question because I honestly can't choose. Like, I'm very intrigued to see this Pettersson versus Miller stuff happen on the ice with them on opposing teams. The same reason everybody's excited for Canucks versus Rangers, right? But a stacked Team Canada, I'm wearing my pelt. I think I have to give the edge to that. I'm just so excited to see this group of players play together.
Yeah, same, especially because at 5-on-5, they may not play a lot head-to-head. Yeah, JT's penciled in as their third line center, whereas Pettersson is their 1C. And I imagine from early indications that they're going to use the Americans are going to use the Eichel line as their sort of shutdown against that Pettersson line. So I don't know how much head-to-head they'll actually get at 5-on-5.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why I'm really excited. I'm really excited for Stack Team Canada. Like, again, we're not the biggest Cale Makar fan podcast, but Cale Makar is a fantastic player. And that first power play unit that we talked about yesterday is going to be so much fun to watch. We're going to be joined by Frank Seravalli in a matter of moments. I'm not going to ask you about Marcus Pettersson's contract. Like, it was a week ago and I was already texting with him about it. Again, like, he's not very high on Marcus Pettersson. And as I said last week, insiders, I prefer my insiders if they actually have opinions. Even if they're wrong, I still like when people have opinions and they have takes, even if they're wrong, like Frank is. Like, Frank's wrong here. I'll say it. It's okay. We can disagree. Don't need to be like, Frank, can you explain this take as we preview the Four Nations Faceoff? Let's not ask about the Canucks' third best defenseman, okay? Frank's going to join us in a matter of moments, but let's continue breaking this tournament down, Harm. I'm thinking about this Canada roster, and we talked about them the most, so I think this will probably be the shortest one. We'll talk to Frank, we'll preview it with him, we'll continue to talk about the tournament, and then on the other side, I'm sure we'll get to Finland, we'll get to Sweden as well, but this Canada roster, Harmon, are there any question marks for you aside from goaltending? Because for me, that's the big one. They left Logan Thompson at home. I don't think they'll make that mistake again. I hope it's not because they learned a tough lesson at the Four Nations face-off, but like Logan Thompson is going to be on the Olympic team, or at least he should be, in my mind. So is there anything that you look at this Canada team and say, there's a question mark aside from goaltending?
Yeah, I'd say their blue line after Makar is good, but is it at the level of Sweden? Is it at the level of the US? And of course, Quinn Hughes being unavailable for the US does impact that conversation. But look at the names on Team Canada after Makar, right? You got Taves, who is in the middle of a bit of a down year relative to his lofty standards. Josh Morrissey is a really good defenseman. He's underrated. But he's not been a guy that's consistently in that Norris conversation. Then you got Parayko, Shea Theodore, Drew Doughty. These are good defensemen. But outside of Makar, none of these guys are consistently in the Norris conversation.
I mean, when we talk about Team USA, we're going to talk about a Norris candidate as well. But before we do that, yeah, I look at this team and, I mean, I'm excited. Like, I'm excited about Drew Doughty. We were talking about 2014 and him and Crosby are the only guys from that team that are on this team. Pietrangelo should have been, but he's not on this team. He took the tournament off to deal with an injury that he's dealing with right now. So, yeah, I agree with you, Harm. Like, Josh Morrissey got some love, but yeah, I think I give the edge to that Team USA blue line as well.
I mean, even Sweden, right? Sweden's third pair is Gustav Forsling and Rasmus Dahlin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a pretty stacked blue line that Sweden has. Now, Sweden doesn't have a Cale Makar, but top to bottom, they are so ridiculously stacked.
Okay, so question mark for Team USA. Let's go through that. Let's just do a question that we have about each team's lineup and how they're going to perform at this tournament. I'll give you my Team USA question mark. I will. My question mark is, can they gel as a team together? Like, we talk about how there's only a few guys in 2014 that were together, but like, this team has Sidney Crosby, and again, I'm not trying to stir up controversy or anything, but I do wonder about Team USA's just ability to actually play together as a team. It feels like you have a lot of really great individual guys, but again, I look at that Team USA team, and that's a big question mark for me, is like, okay, can they really come together and play as a team here?
I disagree. I don't think that's a particularly pronounced question mark for the U.S. That's a fair question for all the teams across the board. And I'll also say this, just even looking at the way they've constructed their lines and their roster, I like the way that they've got a lot of players with varying skill sets that should complement each other, right? So look at the way, the top line is built, for example, where they got Eichel, Kachuk, and Connor. They got an elite two-way centerman in Eichel who can excel defensively, drive zone entries. They got a speedster in Kyle Connor, who's been an unbelievable goal scorer. And then you've got Kachuk, who's just a net front demon. Look at the way the second line is built. You've got Jack Hughes, his playmaking, his creativity, his puck rushing on the wing. You got Gensel's net front sort of skill, and then you got Matthews as the goal scorer and kind of the two-way engine of that line. I feel like they've got guys that complement each other skill set wise really well. So I'd actually disagree. I don't see that as a pressing issue for the Americans.
Don't want to put a Pirate Pack bet on it, but we'll see, Harm. We're going to have this talk. If they lose, I'm going to have my questions about playing together as a team. Speaking of Team USA, as he sees me wearing my pelt backstage, I'm sure he's going to have questions about that. Frank Seravalli joins us now, and I already did the ad read, so just bring him in. Frank Seravalli joins us now. Live on location, actually, from the Four Nations Faceoff. Frank, what have you seen through the first few days, aside from my hat?
A lot of excitement from these players. Matthew Tkachuk was talking about it this morning, the idea that, hey, this is a long season, 82-game slog. He said this feeling here brings him back to the Stanley Cup final, that the intensity that's going to be involved in this tournament, he called it 4 Game 7s, which sounds a little outlandish, and obviously there's a totally different trophy and different bragging rights on the line, but you could see why for players in the middle of a long year, this is a welcome break.
Hey, Frank, what's the long-term plan for this tournament? We were just having this conversation. Like, is this a one-off? Is this a one-off?
Yep, one and done, most likely.
Okay, so why did they make such a nice trophy and they're going to hand it on it's over?
Well, I'm laughing too because I said the first thing I thought, I was like, oh, that looks really expensive.
Yeah. Okay, Harmon.
I don't know. But also the winners, they get gold medals, so be interesting.
What do you think are some of the under the radar storylines heading into this tournament? Because I know when you talk about teams like, Canada, everybody's talking about the Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon finally getting a chance to play together, and everybody focuses on the Americans as well. But are there any under the radar storylines that you're excited to track in this tournament that people maybe aren't talking enough about?
I mean, I haven't heard enough talk about Sweden. It's called the Four Nations Faceoff. I mean, you could probably realistically call it the 3.5 Nations Faceoff with how banged up Finland's defense is. But everyone thinks that it's a foregone conclusion that Canada and the US are going to be meeting for the championship next Thursday night in Boston. And I'm just not sold that's the case. I think this Swedish defense core is arguably the best in the tournament. Like, you could make a real case that they've got the number one blue line. I'd still probably lean toward Canada with Cale Makar, but the fact of the matter is it's in question. And their goaltending should be pretty good. So can their forward group provide the offense necessary to compete with the firepower of the Americans and Canadians? I think they've got a puncher's chance. And we know that they tend to play pretty cohesive. So, maybe they have a chance to come together and shock everyone. And that's why I think there's actually a fair bit of pressure for Canada on Wednesday night. This is not about who has the best team. In a 4-game tournament, really a 3-game round robin to get to the final, it's just about who starts the best. And Sweden very well could do that on Wednesday night to open up this tournament, and curious to see if Canada's going to be on alert and ready to go.
We were talking about Finland in a similar way. It's like they look bad on paper, but hey, maybe they can come together and play as a team, shut it down, little Latvia style hockey. But Sweden absolutely deserves that respect. And I'm glad you said that, because we were going through each team's question mark. For Finland, it is their blue line, obviously. For Team Sweden, in your mind, Frank, what is Team Sweden's question mark heading into this tournament?
It's probably their offensive depth. look, I think they've got the top end players, and I'm really fascinated to see Elias Pettersson take him out of the Canucks world and how crazy that's been this season, and put him with, as Mika Zibanejad was talking today, put him with guys that are speaking Swedish, talking in Swedish. They're having their meetings in Swedish. These guys haven't done this, some of them, since they were teenagers. So it takes them back, and maybe that allows him to break free.
How concerned should Canadians be about their goaltending situation? Do you think it does matter a lot?
Well, it's the clear fourth of four among goalie rankings in this tournament. That said, and frankly, I'll take it a step further. Like if you were to rank all 12 goalies from 1 to 12, the advantage that the U.S. has over everyone else is pretty stark. Like you would go Hellebuck 1, Ottinger 2, and you might even go Swayman 4, for instance. Like they're that good. That said, I look at what they're likely to get from their goalies, and Jordan Binnington has been named the starter, that it's likely to be average enough that it's not hugely detrimental to Canada's chances. And a big reason for that also is going to be the name of this game over the next 10 days is going to be, can you get the puck off of Team Canada? Can you kill enough plays? Can you make enough stops in the defensive end to give yourself an opportunity at the other end? Because this Team Canada should have the puck a ton, and that should theoretically also really help out their goaltending as well.
Frank, what'd you make of Quinn Hughes' decision not to participate in the tournament? Obviously, we heard it was a very tough decision for him to make. It's weighing on him a ton, but ultimately he's not there at this tournament.
Not really surprised, because, I think when you look at his season, the way that it's unfolded, it's obvious that as well as he's played, and frankly, as much separation as he's created from the next closest teammate that he has, that he hasn't been right. And for a while, like I think we're going back 6 weeks now. And I'm sure it was agonizing to pass up an opportunity to play with your brother, but you know what? You're going to get that next year in a tournament that truly counts in the Olympics. And so that opportunity is right in front of him. But the opportunity for this Canucks team to make the playoffs is going to be decided in relatively short order. And they will have zero chance without Quinn Hughes. So I think he knows that. I think he internalizes that. And I think that's really been the push and pull for a lot of players. Could Rasmus Ristolainen have come here and gutted it out for Team Finland? Probably. But these guys are being paid millions of dollars by their teams, and it's a hard balance to strike. But in the end, as much as you're loyal and your allegiance lies with your country and your federation, it really comes back to the team that's paying your salary. And Quinn Hughes takes that responsibility seriously with the Canucks and wants to be at his best when it matters most.
If you had to pick a player further down the lineup on Team USA and Team Canada, who you expect to have a really big impact in this tournament that maybe people aren't talking about enough right now, who would you pick on Team USA and Team Canada?
So for the Americans, I mean, when I look at their bottom six, I really think about the edge that they have in physicality and compete and versatility. And so the two guys I would look at, not to bring his name up again in Vancouver, but JT Miller and then his close friend and Vincent Trocheck. Look, Miller has been talked about a ton this season, Trocheck less so. I know Ranger fans have been disappointed by the way this season has unfolded. And Chris Kreider has been on the outside looking in at this lineup. But when I look at Trocheck and the way that he impacts the game, they were talking about this today at Media Day, the management staff, Bill Guerin and Coach Mike Sullivan, just that these guys, there's never any question about who's going to, drag them into the fight. And those two guys, I think, are going to play a large role in determining just how much success the U.S. is having. Yeah, they might only be getting 12 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it might be. But there was a lot of talk from every team so far about checking your ego at the door. And in those limited minutes, I think those guys can still be incredibly impactful. So I would look at those two guys. And on Team Canada, I'd probably, of all the guys that have been talked about and had a ton of ink spilled about them so far, I can't wait to see what Mitch Marner does. It's been Crosby, it's been McDavid, it's been McKinnon, all these guys that people are talking about. But Mitch Marner has had an unbelievable year for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And what happens next, the statement that he makes or is able to make in a tournament like this, really could go a long way also in terms of helping propel the Leafs when they get back. How does this experience and how it goes here, how does that rub off on Mitch Marner and what he brings back to Toronto? Because that's one thing that I look at as a huge disparity between these two countries is there's all this talk about the USA having an incredible opportunity to make a statement about the international pecking order. Will the U.S. finally surpass Canada? Back-to-back World Junior gold medals. You can throw all that stuff out the window. The key is winning when it matters most. And that's why I thought Austin Matthews as the captain for Team USA was a really interesting pick, because I would have gone with someone who's been there and done it before. I would have gone with a Matthew Tkachuk who's recently gotten to the summit and knows what it takes. The U.S. doesn't have very many of those players. It's Tkachuk, it's Jack Eichel, you've got a two-time winner in Jake Gensel, and then that's really kind of it. But you go to the Canadian side, and it's serial winners everywhere. It's Sidney Crosby and Drew Doughty and Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Devon Taves, all these guys, Sorelli, Point. Like, you've got Stanley Cups everywhere, littered across that dressing room, on top of two guys that are still there from the 2010 Olympics. The U.S. doesn't have any of that to hang their hat on. So if you're going to make a statement, you're going to have to take down the 800-pound gorilla that is Team Canada. And that's why I know you asked me about, who could be a guy that people aren't talking about. Stick a Mitch Marner in that environment. They haven't won anything in Toronto. But does this help him?
I love that. You just put that a lot better than I tried to. I was talking about earlier, like, I don't know if this Team USA team is going to be able to play like a team, but you put it a lot better than I did. Is there anyone from 2014 that's still on this team? Like, I don't think so, right? I'm looking up and down the lineup. There's nobody, right?
I don't think so. They're also the youngest team in the tournament, which if you're looking at the star power and firepower that they have, again, probably bodes pretty well. Like, make no mistake, they brought in Mike Eruzione and Rob McClanahan and Mike Modano and some USA Hockey legends. As Bill Guerin explained this morning, the guys that paved the path for them to get here. This is the best American roster that's ever been assembled in any tournament. It's not close. Can they do the job? That's a really big question, and you got to start on foreign soil.
Maybe Trocheck? Was Trocheck there in 2014? That's the only name I'm thinking.
Don't think so.
Nope.
Okay. Frank, you're getting a lot of love in the chat right now for your praise for Team Canada and all those Stanley Cups in the locker room.
Well, I picked Canada to win. As much as I'm a proud American and flag-waving American, you got to beat the best to be the best, and Canada has been the best for way too long. Will they continue on? I think they're just as good as anyone else. Goaltending doesn't matter. Not to say it doesn't matter. It's just that all these things tend to even out. And I think they've got enough firepower and talent to carry them. So can everyone find the chemistry? It's the question that everyone's trying to find individually for each of their different countries.
We've heard Rick Tocchet like right before the tournament. Obviously, he's on Team Canada's bench, but after that game that Elias Pettersson had against Toronto, where he played really well, he was asked about was asked about what he's hoping for Pettersson at this tournament. He said, just go have fun, and hoping that, like you said, playing with your countrymen can kind of rejuvenate you a little bit and you come back a different player. Today, Elias Lindholm, his ex-teammate in Vancouver, said that after this tournament, he thinks Vancouver's going to get a different version of Elias Pettersson, that Pettersson's going to come back a much better player after this tournament. Do you think this could be a bit of a cleansing experience for players?
Maybe. I mean, I think what it does have the ability to do, maybe not from a cleansing perspective, but a restoring perspective of confidence. If you can play at this level with the 1%ers of the NHL, it doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter how much money you're paid. Even the best, most talented players in the world can lose and have their confidence shaken. Doesn't matter the sport. Whatever it is, you see players get knocked down a peg, and if Tiger Woods, or pick the elitist of elite athletes of all time, can have their confidence shaken, it's obviously entirely possible for Elias Pettersson. So I think that part, maybe not cleansing, because look, the stink that has surrounded the Canucks and the stink that has surrounded Pettersson's game for more than a calendar year now, that's not going to be easy to wipe off. You're not just going to be able to get a moist hot towel like you're in first class on the plane and just, get rid of it. It's not going to happen. But if he is able to play well, if he's able to find chemistry, that perhaps that will just rejuvenate the inner confidence in himself. I truly believe that all of Pettersson's issues reside right here, the 6 inches between his ears, that it's on him. He has it within himself, but he needs to find that confidence again, and no one's going to be able to do it for him.
Frank, thanks so much for taking the time today. You are live every day from February 10th to 20th at Four Nations. Are you live at the same time every day? I feel like I've noticed some different
12
times.
noon Eastern. We just did one special preview show last night. And we've got a ton going on here. So give us a follow, give us a like on the Daily Faceoff YouTube page. Don't miss it. And we've also got some post-game shows. We're doing some live post-game shows, including tomorrow night after the Team Canada game. We're going to be covering this wall-to-wall like a blanket. And we got 7 people here in Montreal from Daily Faceoff. And we're excited to give you what you want.
Better ad read than I could ever do. Frank, thanks so much for taking the time today. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
There he is. Frank Seravalli. Okay, Harm, he said something there that made me think. As he said, proud to be an American, but he's picking Team Canada for this tournament. Maybe you're not a traitor. Because if Frank can say Team Canada is his favorite team heading into this tournament, or is the favorite for him heading into this tournament, I can admit that Team USA is going to be a very, very good team in this tournament. And that, yes, they might take down Canada, but damn it, I'm still rooting for Canada.
I mean, look, I'm still rooting for Canada too. I would love to be wrong. I'm actively going to be cheering for Canada. I would rather Canada win than be right. I'll also say this. I felt a lot more confident about my Team USA pick when Quinn Hughes was healthy and supposed to be at the tournament, because he's their best player, period. In my opinion, with Matthews not quite operating at that heart level. And so now he's not there. And I still think their blue line is deep enough, especially with Werenski having a Norris caliber season. It just means more minutes for him. He's been just as good as Cale Makar this year. So they're deep enough to where I don't think their blue line's in gonna have a ton of issues, and I still like them in net with the elite options they have. But it's really close. It's practically a coin flip, but I picked USA. I think it was a couple weeks ago when The Athletic, we were doing our staff survey, and I picked them to win when I thought Quinn was going to be there, and I'm not going to back down from that just because he's unavailable now.
I love it. Stand by your takes. I love it. Okay, Team Sweden here. Let's just finish up this kind of preview of the lineups and the question mark for each team. For me, for Sweden, again, we were talking about forward depth. I'm specifically going to talk about their wings. I don't think they have good wingers. I'll just say it. I think that's their weakness.
I'd say the opposite. I'd say they're weaker down the middle. Yeah. I mean, you got Pettersson, who has been playing like a 2C for the last year. You got Zibanejad at 2C, who He's been so bad down the middle that the Rangers had to shift him to the wing. And then their 3C is Eriksson Ek, who is a great centerman, but he probably doesn't make Team Canada or Team USA. And then you got Elias Lindholm, who's having a miserable year in Boston. To me, that's a much bigger weakness when you got to go up against the likes of McDavid, and it sounds like McKinnon might play center on that line with Crosby instead. McDavid, McKinnon, when you got to go up against Matthews, Eichel. As opposed to, I look at the wings, I mean, Philip Forsberg, he's been one of the hottest players in the NHL since January 1st. He's been lighting the lamp. Adrian Kempe is one of the most underrated goal scorers in the league. He's been a guy that can produce 40 goals. They got William Nylander. They got Ricard Raquel was quietly having a huge year for the Penguins. I mean, they got Lucas Raymond and Jesper Bratt on the third line. Raymond's over a point per game on the third line. I'd say they're much weaker down the middle than they are on the wings.
The thing that I will say about their centers, and the thing that I liked about all their centers, and I thought the reason I say they're a strength, all of those guys are really good two-way centers. Like, how are you going to score on those centers? Like, look at the guys they have down the middle. All of those guys, yeah, maybe not so much Zibanejad, but all of those guys, Pettersson, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Elias Lindholm, if their offensive game isn't going, you know you're getting a really, really solid defensive game from those guys. And I'm not going to poop on Team Canada or Team USA here, but you can't say that about all of the other centers on the other team. I think that's a strength.
They're high end. They're good defensively, but they're not, like, none of those guys have won a Selke trophy, right? It's not at that caliber. They're high end, but even, for example, with the Americans, like Eichel, statistically over the last 3 years has been one of the best shutdown centers in the NHL. You look at the way that Eichel drove Vegas when they won the Stanley Cup. It wasn't just the points that he put up. He was a defensive juggernaut. He was a two-way monster. There's a reason that they're leaning on Eichel to go up against top lines in this tournament. And then Matthews as well has evolved into a tremendous defensive player too. So to me, I look at Sweden centers, and they really need the best version of Elias Pettersson, because to me, down the middle, I just don't think they have the elite superstar weapons that Canada and the US have, or even Finland for that matter. Right? Like, Finland has Barkov, they have Sebastian Aho, they have Rope Hintz. I think Sweden is the weakest team or weakest nation at this tournament down the middle.
Interesting. So we agree that the forward group is going to be Sweden's question mark.
Yeah.
At least we agree on that. I'm not going to do the center versus wing thing anymore, but like, I also think when it comes to Sweden being this dark horse, we talked about how good their back end is. This ability to play as a 5-man unit could be what separates them, right? Like, that could be what separates them. And again, like we talked about it, if you blink, you could miss the championship game. Like, if you have a couple bad games, there's no time for that. You have to be playing like a team, and you have to be ready to go right from the start. And honestly, like, people are saying it in the chat too, is I wasn't excited until for this tournament until I started listening to today's episode. I hope we're getting people excited for this tournament, because I'm very excited for it, and I hope that comes through. I think it's a tournament to get excited about. I think it's going to be really fun. And again, like, there's a couple people saying like, "Oh, I'm not going to watch a single game." Okay, we won't miss you. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. We'll see you in 2 weeks for Canucks versus Vegas. Awesome, no problem. But this is going to be way better than the All-Star game, as Jacob just said in our private chat here. This is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. I'm super excited for it. That closes out my preview for it. Do we do every team's weakness? Finland's obviously their defense.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk too much about Finland. We've touched on it before.
Anything else with the lineups you want to talk about? Anything itching that you want to get out?
Okay, so yeah, one thing that I've thought about with Canada is I haven't heard too many people bringing up how the Canadian wingers, and it's kind of ironic because I've been talking up the USA. Canada's wingers aren't just elite offensively. A lot of them are also excellent defensively. Like, you look at up and down at the wingers they have. Look at the wingers who've finished top 10 in Selke, finishing in relatively recent seasons. Sam Reinhart fits that bill. He's going to get Selke votes again this year. He's probably going to be a finalist. Mitch Marner fits that bill. Brad Marchand. Mark Stone, Sidney Crosby, if he ends up playing the wing instead of McKinnon, Seth Jarvis. Like 6 of your 8 wingers have gotten top 10 Selke votes in recent seasons, and that doesn't even include Brandon Hagel on the fourth line,
or
who is tremendous defensively. Whereas you look at the U.S. side, and I was curious to look through it, they don't have a single winger who's finished top 10 in Selke voting. Now, I think on the back end and down the middle, they make up for it with guys that are really high in two-way drivers. And I should also clarify, when you look at USA's crop of wingers, it's not that they're defensive liabilities. A lot of them are very solid and reliable, but it's just, do they have that elite sort of gear on the defensive side of the puck that guys like Reinhart and Marner and Mark Stone and Sidney Crosby, if he's on the wing, have?
This is going to be so much fun. Like, this is just going to be so much fun. The more we talk about this, the more excited I get. Honestly, it's just going to be so much fun. The USA back end, do you think we talked about that enough? Because Adam Fox is having a down year. Charlie McAvoy is having a down year. But Zach Werenski is having an excellent year. Does this just even out? Like, right now on dailyfaceoff.com, where we get all our line combos from, they're lining up with Werenski McAvoy as the second pairing, with Jacob Slavin and Adam Fox on the top pair. Like, Zach Werenski should be their biggest minute muncher on the back end with Quinn Hughes not there.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. One thing I'll also say is sometimes it's also like team oriented. Like, the Rangers have been a tire fire this year. Mm-hmm. So naturally, like, think back to Quinn Hughes in, let's say, his sophomore season. And that a lot of people are talking about, oh, is Quinn Hughes still an elite number one defenseman because he was struggling defensively? And in my mind, the big thing that crept into my mind was the Canucks are just a tire fire. And any player in that environment isn't going to look like they're playing at a Norris level. So I wonder how much of Fox not playing at a Norris level this year comes down to the Rangers just kind of being a mess. And also Ryan Lindgren, his most common partner, his game has fallen off a cliff. And now that you're playing with elite players, like, I could absolutely see Adam Fox, who of course has won a Norris Trophy in the past, finding his game. Same thing to a lesser extent for Boston, where the Bruins just flat out aren't a good team anymore. And I could see both of those guys, given their long-term track record, really rebounding and finding their elite level again. I wonder about those two factors, because they will need Fox and McAvoy to punch above where they've performed through this season.
I'm starting to sweat with this pelt on my head here. Let's get to anyone else. Late start to anyone else, actually. But let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, and not just Canucks games, home and away. The home of our electric watch parties. Greta's a great spot to be, and we hope to see you there for all of our watch parties all season long, one of which is coming up soon. Hosted by Sakaris and Bryce on Saturday, February 15th. It is Canada. It is USA. You will not want to miss it. Puck drop is at 5 p.m. Doors open at 4 p.m. Tickets are just $10 on nationgear.ca. This event is presented by Fountain Tire and in support of the YVR Social Run Club. Make sure you grab your friends, too. We've got the VIP 4-person reservation for $40. Make sure you grab your friends, even if you don't have friends that want to go with you. This is a great environment. All of our watch parties are so much fun. You meet a lot of people. You watch hockey with people that are there to watch the hockey, and it's so much fun. You've got the street food menu. You've got the drinks. You've got the arcade games. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you come out to that one, and, of course, all of our watch parties all season long. Greta Bar YVR is the spot. 50 West Cordova Street. Let the games begin. Okay.
Now you guys aren't going to be at that watch party, but I think I will be there. So if any of you guys show up, please come and say hi to me. I'll be representing Canucks Conversation.
Nice. What are you going to wear?
I don't know.
Tall guy with
Canada
the
related, probably.
Atlanta Braves hat, probably.
Which is, well, I'm wearing that Braves hat right now. No, I got to rock Canada only. I'll probably wear a Blue Jays hat on that day.
Love it. Big Toronto guy, that Jacob Lazar. Okay.
Big Mitch Marner guy.
Big Mitch Marner fan.
Yeah, Blue Jays hat means I'm just the biggest Mitch Marner fan. I will jump for joy and buy everyone a shot when he scores a goal.
Just wear your Vancouver Canadians hat. Don't you have a lot of C's gear?
I've got some. I've got a lot of hats. I'm like you quads. I got hats for a bunch of different teams.
I gotta get rid of
He's
some
a Toronto
hats.
homer. He loves Toronto, so he's got to rep Blue Jays.
Yeah.
I love that we've never once brought this up before, and we're just like, nope, this is a thing now. Jacob loves Toronto. Yeah, wear your Vancouver Canadian stuff. We're set. All good. I'm gonna wear this when I skate on the outdoor rink on the lake, and I'll send you lots of photos. Okay, RP88. Who do you think Pettersson is going to have the best chemistry with on Team Sweden? Adrian Kempe. Can I just say Adrian Kempe is my dream winger for the Canucks to go get? Like, there's always these questions of like, oh, who's Pettersson going to mess with? It's Adrian Kempe. Like, Adrian Kempe and Elias Pettersson are really good friends. They hang out in LA all the time together. They're really, really good friends, and they're lined up together on Sweden's top wing or top line. I gotta say, I think Adrian Kempe is the best line mate for Elias Pettersson on the planet.
His other winger, Philip Forsberg, I like the fit between Pettersson and Kempe too, but Forsberg is a higher tier player than Kempe, and he's been on a tear since January 1st. So, yeah, I mean, Forsberg, the finishing ability, the IQ.
And Forsberg said he wanted to play with Pettersson. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Before the tournament, he was asked, like, is there anybody you're looking forward to playing with or who you want to play with? And he name-dropped Elias Pettersson. And I would say, because he got a front row seat at him in the playoffs last year, but Pettersson didn't do much in that series against Nashville. So that's some high praise coming from Philip Forsberg for his countrymen. The Beer Baron saying Sam Reinhart is the most underrated player on the team. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say Sam Reinhart is pretty fairly rated now, and I'm expecting big things from him. As someone supporting Team Canada, I'm expecting Sam Reinhart to lead this team in goals. Like, Sam Reinhart should be a big part of this team. He should be.
Yeah, I don't think you can call anybody on this team underrated, except maybe Seth Jarvis. People don't talk.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
A lot about him, but other than that, I mean, you're talking about guys who are the best players on the teams that they play on.
Big Hog Hockey, great name, said a lot of people want to name the trophy after Gaudreau. I love that, honestly. You saw Guy Gaudreau out there, or Guy Gaudreau. I don't know why I said, yeah, Guy Gaudreau was out there with Team USA. Absolutely love that they brought him out. Obviously, the father of the late Johnny Gaudreau. Team USA, I think it was actually Miller. JT Miller was talking today about playing with Johnny, knowing Johnny, and saying that, yeah, this is on top of the bragging rights and everything. Like, this is an added incentive for Team USA to really show up at this tournament. Man, it's going to be awesome. This tournament's going to be so much fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for it. Any final thoughts, Harm?
No, I'm just fired up for it.
Yeah, I'm fired up too. It's going to be good. It all starts tomorrow, folks. Canucks Army and Daily Faceoff. Make that your home for all of your coverage. We're going to have game previews. I'm going to start writing game previews again. Get back into that. Yeah, we're going to have game previews. We're going to have lots of coverage of the tournament, so make sure you come check it out. Let's see. What do we have on Bet365 for the Four Nations Faceoff? Okay, Canada is heavy favorites against Sweden tomorrow. I'm obviously not going to bet against Sweden, or excuse me, bet against Canada. Do we like Finland at plus 265 against the US? US are minus 330 favorites. Is Finland going to win a game at this tournament, Harm? They're going to be underdogs in every single game. I'm going to say they win a game. They probably don't make the finals, but like they win a game. Do they catch USA off guard tomorrow?
I don't think so.
You'd be right because they play on Thursday. But on Thursday, do they catch them off guard?
I don't think so.
All right.
I mean, you can still get Finland plus 1.5 at plus 100. So if you think Finland keeps it close against the U.S., only loses by a goal, you can still get them as an underdog on that.
I refuse to bet spread on hockey because then you get an empty net goal and you're just like, damn it.
Fair enough.
Or you get disrespectful people like Jared Bednar, who... Remember that when I was like really upset that they pulled the goal in and they were down 3-0?
And then
it'd be really funny
on you.
if the whole reason for it was just me being like, yeah, I had the spread. I had the spread in that game. No, I didn't. What should we pick here? You like Team USA. Do you want to hear the odds for Team USA to win the whole thing?
Yeah, what are they?
Okay, it's plus 150.
You just picked Canada yesterday to win the whole thing. You can't pick USA to win the whole thing
I'm not taking
today.
them as my bet. I'm telling Harmon the odds. I'm explaining some of the odds around. I'm not picking Team USA. Do you see the hat that I'm wearing that I haven't taken off even though I'm starting to sweat? Keeps your cranium quite warm. I am going to pick on the game USA-Finland for Thursday because, again, folks, we're doing a show on Thursday. We'll know the results of Canada-Sweden. Are we doing Family Feud on Thursday, Jacob?
Yes, we are. Family Feud on Thursday.
Is it done? Do we have the
we still need some more.
done?
So if you haven't filled out the survey yet, please do that. No show tomorrow, but we will be back for Feud on Thursday. So please fill that out.
Okay, I'm picking it now. Actually, I guess I can't. I'll pick them later. I'm taking. Can we pick MVP? What can we do here? There's a lot of things I can pick. Sorry, give me a second. I want to pick something cool.
They have all the prop bets, goal scorers for,
I got it.
games.
Tomorrow, Captain Canada, Sidney Crosby, anytime goal scorer at plus 230 odds. That's the bet that I'm taking over on Bet365. Captain Canada, dear Sidney, please score a goal. That is our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 90 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, Harm, final thoughts.
I'm just jacked up. I can't wait to watch the game tomorrow, especially Canada-US on the weekend. That's going to be electric.
It's going to be awesome. Thank you to everybody for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. I'm going to go celebrate, and I will see you all on Thursday. It's going to be fun. For my co-host, Harmon Dallin, our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, our thanks again to Frank Seravalli for joining us on this episode. My name is Dave Rogelli. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.